Ohara Davies makes a successful comeback following his defeat to Josh Taylor earlier in the year with a 6-round TKO victory over the previously unbeaten Tom Farrell in Farrell's backyard in Liverpool. Farrell was cut on his eye. He was down in round 1. He was down in the 2nd round, and he was also down twice in the 6th round. It was overall, I would say, a good performance by Ohara Davies. He did make a few mistakes here and there, but overall a good performance from several different aspects, and I'll get into that later on in the video. But first of all, I have to address the referee and Farrell's corner. A lot of people were complaining that this fight was allowed to go on too long, and I have to agree with that. We do not want to see fighters get permanently injured, suffer brain injuries. We don't want to see that. I've been around long enough to see numerous fighters end up in wheelchairs and even some fighters die. I don't want to see it again. I mean, it's going to happen, but we want to try and minimize it. This was a situation in this fight where Tom Farrell, who's not a puncher, he's got very few knockouts, was taking a systematic beating round after round. Was on the floor, up and down off the canvas like a yo-yo. And yet he was being sent out again and again by his corner and allowed to carry on by the ref, taking an absolute horrific beating in a fight which he stood no chance at all of winning on the cards after a certain point because he'd been down so many times. He'd lost every round. He was in there against a big puncher. I mean, Farrell was never in the fight. He's no Josh Taylor, clearly. A lot smaller than Taylor for one. Don't have Taylor's skills. And again, he's not a puncher. He didn't have anything to get Davis's respect with. And his tactics actually were all wrong. And I'll get onto that in a minute. But as I say, the corner need to have a long, hard look at themselves in the mirror. Because I've seen, aside from brain injuries and whatnot, I've seen fighters' careers ruined because they've taken beatings like that unnecessarily. Their careers ruined because psychologically it can mess them up, taking that kind of beating. And their punch resistance can even suffer. Now I know Ohara Davies took a bit of a beating against Josh Taylor in his previous fight, but Ohara Davies is a puncher. This is a guy who even Josh Taylor, who we all know don't like Ohara Davies, after the fight was forced to admit, actually, yeah, Ohara Davies is pretty heavy-handed, I'm not going to lie. I felt his power and yeah, the guy can punch. And he did manage to buzz Josh Taylor a couple times in that fight and back him off noticeably. So yeah, you might give Ohara Davies the benefit of the doubt. On top of that, Davies was coming forward, he's pressing the action a lot of the time against Josh Taylor. So you give him the benefit of the doubt if he's taking a beating. Because he was still in there and he was still forcing action. With Tom Farrell, from when he got dropped in the first round, he was in survival mode. I mean, there was nothing he could do. Tactically, against somebody like Ohara Davies, who does have these ridiculously long arms, you've got to be either all the way in or all the way out. And what I mean by that is you've got to be all the way in, inside his reach, because when you get inside of Ohara Davies's reach, he's vulnerable. Josh Taylor showed that. So if you're not going to be all the way inside his reach, you need to be all the way outside his reach, where he can't actually get you. But Tom Farrell was kind of in that middle ground. He allowed himself to get trapped in the corner and on the ropes too many times. And he was at the perfect range, actually, a lot of the time for Ohara Davies's big shots at long range. So tactically, he just got it all wrong. He should have darted in a lot quicker and got inside of those long octopus-like arms of Davies and got some short combinations off. That's where Davies is deficient up close, because his arms are so long, it's hard for him to shorten his punches and still be fast and snappy up close. He can shorten his punches, but again, he leaves himself open because his arms are so long. He's not as nice and compact and neat as a guy like Josh Taylor up close. So that's what Farrell needed to do, but he just didn't do it. He just took a beating, as I say, from round 1 on. And I really blame his corner more than the referee, because the referee don't know Tom Farrell as well as his corner do. His corner know him. They see him in the gym every day. They know what he can take and what he can't take. And to send him out like that in a fight which he had no chance of winning, which he wasn't in, and he's not a puncher, it was just terrible to see, you know. Anyway, with all that aside, let me talk about Ohara Davies' performance. It was a good performance. I don't really know much about Tom Farrell. In fact, I have to confess, this is the first time I've ever watched him fight. I just know that he's a 13-0 prospect. So he's not as good as Josh Taylor. That's understood. But in terms of what Davis actually did, I like the fact that he was confident. You know, people were slagging him off in the build-up to this fight, and they slag him off in the build-up to all his fights. But, you know, I saw people saying, oh, he hasn't learned his lesson from the Taylor fight and he should be humble and this, that, and the other. Well, no, he should be himself. If he's normally cocky, then continue being cocky. Don't allow the defeat to take him out of his element and take him out of his zone. You know, stay in character. Stay in, you know, his normal comfort zone. And that's what Ohara Davies does. In fact, against Josh Taylor, he didn't do as much trash talking as normal. And in fact, that might have been a sign that he was out of his comfort zone. And even Josh Taylor said that, like, why are you not trash talking when you see me face to face? What happened there? You know, Josh Taylor took Ohara's glasses off his face and he was doing all these kind of things. And Ohara just didn't react in the way that he would normally react. So that was a case maybe of a fighter acting out of character. But when the Tom Farrell fight came up, he started trash talking, calling the guy a bum and all this kind of stuff. And I can understand why people don't like it. But from a psychological point of view, to me, it was good to see that Ohara was in a, you know, back to his normal self mentally. So he went into this fight very confident. In the pre-fight preliminaries, he was very confident, and he's going into this guy's backyard in Liverpool, hostile territory. And his body language in the ring from the first bell was confident. I guess he knew what he was in with at the end of the day. He'd looked at Tom Farrell and probably thought, this guy can't punch. You know, I'm going to take him apart, and really believed that. So when you really believe that, you're going to have confidence. So he went in there with confidence, punching with authority, landed a big right hand at the end of the first round, followed by a very solid jab to follow up, which knocked Tom Farrell's head back, and he went down hard from that combination. And from there on in, it was pretty much target practice for Ohara Davies. And as target practice goes, it was pretty impressive. He did get caught lunging in a few times, which is some of the mistakes that he made against Josh Taylor. And Ohara himself said in the post-fight interview that he wasn't happy completely with his performance here against Tom Farrell, that he knows he made mistakes. So as long as he knows he made those mistakes, then they can be rectified. But overall, I thought it was a good performance, psychologically more than anything, because a lot of fighters coming back from a humiliating defeat, like Davis suffered against Josh Taylor, even when they take on fairly limited opposition, they can look terrible in their comeback fights. I mean, do you remember when Lucian Bute got stopped by Carl Froch and he came back against Dennis Grachev? He looked terrible against Grachev. And Grachev is no great shakes as a fighter. You know, nothing special at all, Grachev. And Bute looked awful. He just looked shell-shocked. He looked like a shot fighter, really, against Grachev. And it took him several months, maybe a year, before he got his head right again after that Carl Froch beating. So that's what that kind of thing can do to fighters. But Davis got back on the horse. Psychologically, he seemed confident. He seemed strong. And yeah, that's the main thing I take from this, is that mentally, it was a good performance by Ohara Davies. After suffering that kind of loss, going straight back into the Lions den again and winning, that's going to boost his confidence massively. And so I was impressed with Ohara Davies. Good punching power, decent accuracy, good punch selection, ring generalship, controlling the fight, so on and so forth. As far as where does Ohara Davies go from here, I have said a long time ago that I think Ohara Davies is good enough to pick up a world title. I know, again, people don't like the guy, and because they don't like him, they want to believe that he's garbage and he's not going anywhere. I'm telling you that Ohara Davies is probably going to be a world champ. I've been saying this for years. he's probably going to be a world champion at some stage. I mean, Terence Crawford's looking to move up to 147 pounds. So that's going to free up a load of belts. Well, you think that Two Tanks ain't going to get to fight for one of those belts at some stage? He will. And I'm telling you, I think he's going to win. He's going to win a belt at some stage. He's certainly a good puncher at domestic/European level. I suspect even at world level, he'll be able to keep some guys in check with that punching power too, and those very long arms. And he's improving all the time, Ohara Davies. Also, I wouldn't discount the possibility of a rematch between Davis and Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor obviously don't need Davis right now. He's just beating him in convincing fashion. So he's not looking at Davis now. But the gap between Davis, I mean, Josh Taylor's a better fighter, he proved it. But I don't think the gap is so big that these guys won't cross paths again. I think it's close enough that these guys are going to be in and around the same type of position in the rankings whereby they might actually have to do it all over again. And then we'll see if Ohara can redeem himself against Josh Taylor. And I'd personally wouldn't mind seeing it. If they both keep winning, then why not have them go at it again? The first fight was a good fight. You know, people talk about Ohara quitting and getting beaten up, and he did get beaten up in the end. But it wasn't an easy fight for Josh Taylor. Like, Ohara made him work for that victory. You know, he hit him with some nice shots, buzzed him a few times, and he made Josh Taylor work. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that fight, the rematch, does happen at some stage. Anyway, overall, Ohara Davies, a successful comeback. You know, good stuff from Two Tanks. Mentally, more than anything, I was impressed with how Ohara was in this fight. And it was for the vacant WBA International Super Lightweight title, whatever the hell that is. I'm guessing it's just a fight that's going to get Ohara a decent ranking with a WBA at 140 pounds. So anyway, let me know what you felt about Ohara Davies's performance. What did you think of my assessment of it? Do you agree or disagree? And also, what do you think about the officiating in this fight, the referee, and also Tom Farrell's corner? Do you agree with many people, including myself, that the corner really should have pulled their guy out earlier than they did? And I know eventually the referee stopped it and the corner threw in the towels eventually, but for my money, it was too late. You can't let your fighter take that much unnecessary punishment, and the fight is clearly not in, and he's clearly not going to win. He's not a puncher. What he's going to find some big punch out of nowhere? It's extremely unlikely. Anyway, drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel. It's happening. I'm out.